But this is what we do on chat. For anyone who's new here, yeah, probably just lost a bunch of people for the tech stuff. But this is called Best to Possibly Not Be, a Prudential Argument for Antinatalism by Marcus T.L. Teo in Bioethics Forthcoming. And so, for anyone new here, what we do is we read papers, we discuss the ideas in them, if there's anything worthwhile, that's the whole point, and then at the end we have a rating system, and you get to rate, and I haven't shown this off in a while, because frankly I haven't had time to work on it, but this is kind of what it'll look like. So this was from like 505, so like 45 streams ago, no, yeah, well, maybe 40 something streams ago, and like there'll be the video of the VOD on YouTube I upload, like the abstract, and then you get to see the ratings down here. So on this one, we like this one. Tindarius and I were here. We like this one. I gave it a bunch of good ratings, and so did Tindarius. So like this is the sort of thing, and then that will also translate to a numerical grade. So yeah. Have you seen the video of when the guy puts 2 American Chinese restaurants on phone? Yes. It's just like I felt bad for like the people, but it's like it's funny. Yeah. Okay, so here we go, and as always, feel free to ask questions along the way. I will do my best to explain, but this is my first time reading this too, so here we go. Media share. I don't have no media share. What is media share? Inside the burning house, a woman trapped seething, prayed for escape from senseless cremation, and God said, "Paint doors." I have no idea what that means. Seems like cutesy. This is from Sabine F. The Alchemy of Grief. Alchemy of Grief. Bordighera Press. If you're looking for the paper, you can type exclamation point paper. Did I do this? Oh wait, I didn't. G'day, my guy. I need to. Oh, it's a good point. I have to add this to the chat. I don't know if I did this last time. Yeah, sorry. There it is. What's up, Value Bun? Forgot to do that. I need to do that because that actually sets up my entire the background work to capture the information from the stream. But yeah. So now if you type paper, there you go. That's what happens. All right. Okay, the present work aims to offer a novel antinatalist account by appealing to the prudency despite rejecting Benatar's claim that all lives are necessarily bad. Yeah, so this is one of the issues. If you think all lives are necessarily bad, then you might think it's better if nobody was alive, because that would mean less bad. So yeah. I like Bike Chinese takeout restaurant too. I tend to get like cheap takeout from this place, but they always stuff a lot of food in to like the packages, but it's not like the best Chinese takeout, but it's close and it's fast and it's not that expensive, and they give you a lot and it's okay. And then there's one that's a little farther down the road that's new and it's pretty good actually. Like they have a whole sit down restaurant, and but it's more expensive. Okay. In doing so, the author says, I present a more modest antinatalist argument that is derived from our intuitions about developments in death ethics. So we're talking about death ethics. Specifically, I refer to the state of euthanasia debate to inform us of the present state of our moral intuitions on the matter of choice-worthy existence. I argue in this paper that our intuitions about choice-worthy non-existence cases give rise to prudential reasons against having children. If my argument is right, then I would have provided a novel argument for antinatalism despite my departure from Benatarian antinatalism. Yeah, deathics. Alright, 1. Euthanasia. Who is it good for? Who's it good for, euthanasia? Those crazy Asian kids. Academic debate on the permissibility of euthanasia has grown significantly. Strong arguments have been laid out. Following this, the acceptability of euthanasia has become widespread. Evidence points to increasing support for euthanasia at the end of life. Yeah, I mean, if anyone doesn't know, go get yourself, especially for any of your older loved ones, go get them a living will or whatever. Have them lay out their will, all their stuff, and what they want done at the end of life. Because a lot of people, given the option, don't want some certain extreme stuff, and then they're just stuck in bed for 6 months in pain. So if you have the opportunity to get this fixed up for a family member or yourself, please do so. It helps a lot. My next door neighbor, her husband died, my neighbor died, and apparently all the cars were in his name. But then like something was coming up for like, renewal like the next day or something, and she couldn't get like the proper paperwork for the cars because she didn't have all the stuff from the state for like the death certificates and everything. She had to prove she was the beneficiary of her husband's goods. But like, this is the stupidest thing. They were married like 60, 70 years or something. They were married since they were like teenagers, and it's just like, well, the cars were in his name, it didn't matter at all. But it's like, just having this stuff worked out will save you a lot of time and stress at the end of life stuff for like your family. Yeah. Okay, so Takla et al. Found that 76% of British lay people believed it was ethical to allow a patient to receive euthanasia, in line with 77, which was initially found by the British Social Attitude Survey. Yeah, so if you think about what's happening in your life, you don't want to be like sort of like unconscious on a ventilator without able to do anything. So people would say, no, just end it. Don't leave me alive for no reason. Okay. British social attitudes are trash. Yeah. But what are the British? So just because they're trash doesn't mean the surveys are trash. I don't know if you're referring to the content or the name of these people here. I suspect you're referring to the content though. But the survey though, it's a use versus mention distinction. It's very good. Among Flemish nurses, Demetz et al. Also found that 82 of their participants expressed support for euthanasia. Similar effects were found in Dutch populations, Spanish nursing populations, and Greek medical populations. Suffice to say, euthanasia is widely accepted, or at least enjoys increasing support as morally permissible in the present day and age. Yeah. Unreal said, yeah, my mom wouldn't do any of that when she was competent, which left me dealing with a lot of heavy decisions, both before her death and now after. Yeah, not fun. Not fun. I'm sorry that happened. Where people didn't want to make a decision and then it gets worse later. And it's just, it only takes one time for you to have to go through that and to realize how much of a pain in the ass it is. And then you're like, no, this is not how it should be. Inspector says, my little kitty buddy died last week. Oh, he was 14 and operable brain clot moved to his, paralyzing his legs. Oh, that's sad. You're going home in a London ambulance? Yeah. What? That's how your cat died? Yeah. 76% of Brits in favor of euthanasia. Generally 99% of euthanasia for vipers. I don't know. There's got to be a few, well, maybe not 1%. I don't know. What was the guy who got all the snakes out of Ireland? Was that St. Patrick or something? Yeah. What this growing acceptance of euthanasia tells us, amongst other things, is an increasing attitude away from the intrinsic ontological value of human life as is. Instead, growing acceptance of euthanasia as an end-of-life option indicates shifting normative attitudes about the value of life. One's projects, interests, and experiences hold greater centrality in the value of one's life than the mere fact that one is alive. At the point of writing this article, this strikes me as an intuitive view. Okay. St. Patrick, but that's just a myth. I never left. Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's one of the, actually, inspectors, a good point. If you ask people who are against euthanizing people, what would they do for their pets? I think this was gotten asked before. People who would say, oh, I would never let my dog suffer. But then, like, they say, well, what about a person? They say, well, you can't do that. But they'd be like, I'd never let my pet suffer. They'd always put their pet down if, like, it was getting too painful for the pet to, like, have a good life. So, it's interesting. There's a disconnect there. And so, I was dogging on using the word intuitive before, but in this case, it's not terrible. They laid out the position of what the population was saying, and then they're calling it intuitive. No, it's not an intuitive view. It's the common view now. And so, like, what they're saying by intuitive, they're just saying this is the view that people hold. It's not intuitive, it's common. And so it's like, I don't like intuitive, but like at this point it's okay because they're not really using intuitive in the way that intuitive usually is meant to be used. But it's just a point on, rhetoric. Okay, there is one important upshot to this observation, that in at least some cases, non-existence is preferable, that is more choice-worthy, to existence. In discussing this preferability, however, an important distinction must be further made. When we say that a state of affairs X is preferable or more choice-worthy than a state of affairs Y, we may mean this in two distinct senses. That X is preferable to Y for a person P, or that X is preferable to Y simplicator. Yeah, so simplicator just means, like, in general. Like, this is the way the truth is in the world, simpliciter. It's not truth in a system, not truth in a specific spot, or for some people. It's just the big capital T truth. So this just means that this is either something is preferable for a certain person, or it's preferable just for everyone. The preferable for everyone, the simplicator, I mean, that's a much harder claim to make, a much wider claim. Yeah, so the former is what the authors suspect is used more colloquially. When we say that broccoli is a more choice-worthy dinner than a chocolate bar for a child, we mean that it is better for the child to have broccoli for dinner than a chocolate bar. The latter, on the other hand, is not agent-specific. It is choice-worthy, period. An analogy for the latter is harder to imagine because there are myriad definitions of intrinsic good available to us, each of which accrue different conceptions of preferability simplicator. A salient example here is that a world with less pain is more choice-worthy than a world with more pain, even if we cannot tell if someone would be harmed by that specific instance or token of pain. This is because pain is bad and conversely pleasure is good, simplicator. It matters not if we can witness in our own experience or in those of others the manifestations of pleasure and pain. Yeah, so in the abstract, would you like to have a bad world or would you like to have a good world? You choose the good world, but I mean, you don't learn anything about that either. It's like you didn't learn anything, that's just by definition. But that's the simplicator, it's just for everything, just be in the better world, if that is an option. The choice-worthiness of existence in this project, then, I refer to cases of choice-worthy non-existence. So C and E, choice-worthy non-existence. There exists at least some case where it is more choice-worthy not to exist than to exist. Okay. These are cases of choice-worthiness simplicator. C and E. So there's just saying, for everybody at all times, there exists some cases where you'd rather not exist. C&E cases may also have an agent-based conception. Agent-based C&E. There exists at least some cases where it is more choice-worthy for the agent not to exist than to exist. Yeah. The locus of good is distinct between the two types of cases. This distinction is important because of the subject of the discussion, the cessation of existence. When one ceases to exist, a metaphysical puzzle arises. How can one be said to benefit from death if they are no longer present to experience the good that comes from a choice-worthy state of affairs? Yeah, there's always a problem in these arguments. If you die, no one's in pain, and so what were you saved from? No one is there to experience the last... Globus! Globus the Elder! Thank you for the raid! How you doing, Globus? What's going on? We're reading on some antinatalism here. It's a new argument for not being alive. No more kids. Globus, NG Flo, what's up? Welcome, Raiders. How you doing? Let's give. Oh, thank you for giving the shout out to Globus. Reading Rap, how you doing? What's going on? What were you doing? How was your stream? If you need to take a break, feel free to just duck out. But thanks for sending the people by. Hi, I'm Noah. You can call me Noger. Call me Nogre. Nogreo also. Someone now is calling me No or No GRE. It's all good. Just don't be a jerk about it. I'm a philosopher. I philosophize. I talk about metaphysics. And I'm serious about that. I'm actually pretty serious about my metaphysics. No more meat critters. Only, it's dead internet very quick. So we're reading some argument about antinatalism, what it is like not to continue the human race, because it sucks being alive sometimes. But welcome in. What were you talking about? How is the AI stuff today? Which has made me do it. Says the only argument against euthanasia that I've ever heard that I personally found value was, thank you for the follow, was that disabled people might be encouraged to seek euthanasia over medical personnel and society actually making accommodations and giving proper treatment to improvement of their quality of life. Yeah, I mean, there are these arguments about what counts as a good life and who gets to make those decisions. And so it's like, well, who gets to make the decisions what a good life is for disabled people? Like, did they decide? Who decides? And so it's like they might be encouraged to seek euthanasia over, getting, making society better, which is weird. You all should take this video and watch it in our own time. Okay, cool. Thanks. But yeah. What is the utility of pain? Generally knowing that you're injured, the data could be called pain. Doing my best Arnold from Terminator 2. Like, do you get hurt? And he was like, I register injuries. The data could be called pain. So, I mean, that's the utility, is knowing, letting your body letting you know that something is wrong and something needs to change. So it's like, if you put your hand on something hot and you react and you're in pain, you learn very quickly, do not do that. Do not put your hand in the fire. That is bad. So it's like, yeah. Or telling you, hold up, you're getting very close to non-existence here. Yeah. So generally your body is trying to keep itself alive over humans' best attempts not to. And so it's, so your body's it has preferences. Let's put it that way. It has some built-in preferences. Like, it likes to eat. We like to be satiated. We like not to be thirsty. Things like that. Hello, Holiday. Yeah, so this is the question. But since the argument here for those people just coming in, one of the things I do here is we read academic papers, we try to find out if they say anything worthwhile, and then we rate them. This person is arguing a new argument that it's better not to be alive, and they're saying, look, everyone nowadays is going in the direction of saying euthanasia is okay under certain circumstances, and they're going to argue from that position that antinatalism is better not to be alive, or maybe better not that the human race continues, is the right position. So this is an interesting argument. I have not heard this before. This is new. So, but yeah, this is where we're at. So they're saying there exist at least some cases where it is more choice-worthy for the agent not to exist than to exist. It's like, yeah, so if you're just at the end of life and you're going to die anyway, but in a lot of pain, maybe it's better to cut out before you just suffer if you're going to die either way. So it's like, yeah. Okay. But yeah, then there's a philosophical problem. How can one be said to benefit from death if they are no longer present to experience the good that comes from a choice-worthy state of affairs? So yeah, like, you're not in any pain anymore, but you're also not getting any benefit if you're dead, because we only know about benefits to living people, not to dead people. So it's not like your ghost benefits from being out of pain. Okay. So the author says, Here an elegant answer is offered by CNE and not a CNE. So there's an agent-based one versus just in general. Cosmic Seekin, what's up? It is an interesting argument. The planet would be better off without us. Yeah, there's a lot of arguments in this area. This is the paper here. You can go download it. It's a free download. It's from Bioethics. So, oh, wait, y'all be getting to benefits of life? I don't know. Some sort of benefits. Okay. So the author says, while certainly possible to offer an ACNE account of the preferability of non-existence over existence, it is not within my present interest. Instead, it suffices to admit to an intuition that euthanasia can be good because it reduces suffering in the world, even if its relief cannot be felt by the patient whose suffering is relieved by transitioning into non-existence. That is a euphemism if I've ever heard it. Relieved by transitioning into non-existence. So by dying, you don't gain the benefits of losing the pain, but they're saying overall, a society who has less pain is better because it just has less pain. Yeah. Author's purpose in outlining this distinction is because I think this sets the baseline for a prudential argument in antinatalism. Antinatalism, or the thesis that it is choice-worthy not to bear children than to bear children, is unlike euthanasia. Supporting the former places value in preventing a future life, while the latter places value on the cessation of a present life. In both cases, however, the intuition behind CNE cases may undergird our discussion. And the CNE says there exist at least some cases where it is more choice-worthy not to exist than to exist. So this is the CNE that the author is defending. Trans rights, yep. I was born in the wrong body. I should have been a corpse. There you go. Yeah, exactly. So you're I'm sure there's like a good way to say this, like a trans death or something. Yeah. So you're just a trans ghost, Vipers. You're a trans ghost is what you are. What if we just hotwired people's pleasure center? I mean, I always say, like, we have really good drugs, Globus. We have really fucking good drugs. We already can do that. Like, we have awesome drugs. But we tend to think that's bad. I'm not entirely sure all the reasons against just using good drugs at the end of life. But, we tend to think it's bad just to, like, have people hopped up on heroin all the time. So I don't know. Entering a more dissipative manner of existence. Yeah, that's a good one, Unreal. Just a corpse in process. Yeah, I'm always dying, just very slowly. The trouble of being born all over again. Yeah, if there's rebirth and karma, then like yeah, love your drugs. Drugs are great. Yep, exactly. Am I supposed to dead name you? That's a good one, Ivan. Euphoric pill would be lit. I mean, like I said, you can have morphine. Like we have oxycodone. It's really like we have good drugs now. K-Pars, what's up? I mean, I feel that autonomy and control over how one dies is a better argument for euthanasia than less pain society. Yeah, so they're going to be arguing further than what you said. So, but they're using that everyone is starting to go towards that direction. That everyone is starting to go towards euthanasia in those cases is a good thing. So they're using that to take then the further step that since society believes this, then they're going to argue for the further step of antinatalism or that further things. But like that's the whole point, is that they agree, that people are agreeing on with you, K-Pars. Yeah. Inspector Diameter says we could steal people's semen samples. You are not stealing my microplastics. Then they can't decide to be antinatalist. Yeah, well, I mean, people don't like getting their autonomy taken away. But yes, you could make everyone a eunuch. And then there you go. It's just up to the government then, which seems like a terrible solution. Value says, I just got scared because I forgot I had a hat on. It surprised me in Lamau. Yeah, I mean, the old, like, you forget you're wearing your glasses or that stuff. Like, you forget your phone's in your hand and it's like, where's my phone? Thank you for the follow. I love chocolate. Yeah, not a eunuch, a milk cow. Okay. Yeah. These things happen. It's like, maybe you just notice it more when you're older. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you steal people's balls, I guess they're eunuchs, kind of. But, yeah, milk cow. If you're just stealing the semen, then yes, where you're just getting milk. You're right. They've gone open source. Now they are Linux. Oh, God damn it, Unreal. Linux. I thought Unix literally had their Wii Fit cut off. Yes. I was being imprecise there, folks, and I'm getting crapped on for it. Thank you. It's like, yeah. Cosmic Seekin says many Western societies do not have even replacement birth rate, so we may just fade away. Yeah. I think part of that is the current economy. When the economy is good, people are like, oh, we can have kids. It'll be like school's cheap, housing's cheap. It's not a big deal. At the moment, things are getting very expensive. And so people are like, this is not making good economic sense to like settle down and have a family if I can barely, feed myself. Why would I try to, have a kid where I can barely then I'd barely feed the kid, and that'd be bad. So I think it'll come back or whatever, but like we're not there yet. You're right. We're on the downswing in birth rate at the moment because things are expensive and harder than they were. Yeah. Scales with the economic inequality. So this is, I don't want anything bad to happen in society. I'd prefer people to have good lives, but there's a good chance, if anything crashes and then there's just a lot fewer people, then the birth rate will skyrocket just because there'll be more resources to go around after the crash. But like, I don't want any of that, but who knows? It could happen. Oh, Viper says it's mostly to do with educated women. The more educated and liberated they are, the less they're baby making machines. Yeah, that's also part of it. I'm sure that's 100% not false. NRG flow, definition, spelling, grammar, just religious texts of the pedant chatting. Well, yes. I mean, this is a philosophy stream. If you want to call me out on shit, go right ahead. I mean, there is something to be said that you can't just lock women up and like have harems anymore like you could back in the day. Like, you just can't do that, and that's a good thing. So, like, yeah. Non-talking here, but I really like my logo. I saw the duck first. There you go. Well, thank you. Children first. How do I real estate? Yeah, well, if you can't house the kid, what are you going to do? Like, it's a problem. It's like if you have nowhere to live and then you are going to have a kid with nowhere to live, that's difficult. Have sex in this economy? Yeah, I mean, exactly. And you were just, espousing the virtues of condoms earlier, too. So you've been all about this, Vipers. Yeah. So, yeah, I found the duck rabbit. I did not make it. I'm old. I think I found the duck rabbit in 2002 or 2003. It then disappeared from the internet at a certain point in the subsequent few years. I re-uploaded it to my website in 2008, and now all web links of this duck rabbit go back to my re-upload in like 2008 of the duck rabbit. So people have tattoos of this. I'm pretty sure it's my fault at this point. Yeah. Condoms are for fucking asses, yes. People have respiratory illnesses and are icky. That's also true, yeah. But yeah, so thank you. I love chocolate. I like it too, but like, I didn't make it. I'm just, you know, the messenger here. Okay. Oh, damn, I got a lot of viewers. Thanks for the raid, Globus. Yeah, and also, if you're a lurker, I do look at how many people I have in chat, but I do not look at the who's in chat. So if you're lurking, I don't know you're here. You don't have to chat. I won't say hi. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, that's my general policy. So yeah. What do we have here? What are we doing? Ouch, my finger. I can take the ouch away. Yes. There we go. Good old antinatalism. Okay. It's bullshit. He's a liar. Well, it's kind of how it goes. Okay. All right. So let's see how this argument plays out. Antinatalism and suffering. Yeah, we got emotes in chat. One is remiss in discussing antinatalism without at least a summary of David Benatar's arguments on the issue. Benatar argues that coming into existence is always a harm, even if one perceives their coming into existence as the contrary. This is because human life contains an inexplicable propensity for suffering that only non-existence can definitively frustrate. In his controversial asymmetry thesis, Benatar argues that unlike the harm from being born into suffering, the pleasure that one gains from a life worth living is only good for the agent experiencing the said pleasure on the condition that they actually experience a life worth living. Here, the absence of pleasure is not bad unless there is somebody for whom this absence is a deprivation, while the harm from coming into existence is always bad. Conversely, the absence of pain is good, even if that good is not enjoyed by anyone. To justify his thesis, Benatar points, amongst others, to the asymmetry between our intuitive duty to avoid bringing suffering people into existence and the lack of converse duty to bring happy people into being. Protests of lives worth living, according to Benatar, are little more than Pollyannism with a dash of retrospective fallacy. Pollyannism. Yeah, I haven't said that right. That is, humans possess an evolutionarily advantageous psychological propensity to overstate the good in their lives, especially in retrospection, then reflects reality. Yeah, I mean, you see people get all nostalgic for terrible times, and they think it's good, but then they don't. And so if you're looking at this, reflectively, rationally, things were not so good, you were not so happy, and, so why would you think that your life overall was so good? Because you're happy now, or you're looking back like, oh, weren't times so grand back then, but back then you weren't happy either. So it's like, I think there's something to that, in that we tend to have rose-colored glasses, or that hindsight's 20/20, that sort of thing. All right. Benatar's asymmetry thesis is controversial. All things considered, we seem remiss to immediately dismiss the impossibility of a life worth living. Aaron Smuts points out intuitively and succinctly that a life could be considered worth living if they are high in various objective goods and low in objective bads. Benatar seems to claim that existence is necessarily bad for those who come into being, a claim that all births are C&E cases. So there's a case for non-existence in all births. Smuts, on the other hand, seems to claim that existence may be good from a C&E, from an agent perspective. In this instance, I am more empathetic to Smuts' argument, but not because I think that C&E is more helpful in evaluating the goodness of childbirth. Despite the ontological difference between both analyses of the goodness of life, note here that Smuts' argument can extend from being strictly C&E to C&E. So agent-based having an argument for non-existence to just everyone has an argument for non-existence at a certain time. What do we got here, Luke? What's up, Luke? All right, so we've got pain intensity and time. Future judgment, it was horrible. So the peak and the end. Future judgment, it was okay. So it's like, yeah. So even though the peak was the same. So what is this? Is this a from Kahneman and Fredrickson? So future, you will judge peak and end moments more than a net pain gain. So it's interesting. So the way we look back on pain, even if it was terrible, it's just the question of what you're feeling now colors your opinion. All right, that makes sense. I mean, when you're feeling okay, you don't remember the bad times as bad. So when you're feeling good, you think, oh, it wasn't so bad back then. But when you're in pain, you're like, oh, this sucks. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, if enough people are born who meet Smuts' requirements for a life worth living, that is, being high in various objective goods and low in objective bads, then we have reason to think that the world which these people are born is a good world, simplicator. The peak, what was the end? That's the peak end rule? Okay. Okay, so it's all about the brain takes photographs, not videos. Okay. Show me a noose. Go look in the mirror, DCI. Comic says we are just a living biological entity. Every living biological entity strives for survival, and pain is a natural part of existence. Yeah, but I guess the question here is, what ratio is pain versus good? You know, it's like, how much pain, how much good? And if you've got pain all your life and everything sucks, it's like, well, why did you bother living? Versus the good, like if there's enough good, that's what Smuts is saying. If there's enough good in your life, then maybe you had a reason to keep going. And that's what they're saying here. So if there's right here, I know it's a little small on your screen, but like maybe I'll go start doing this. Oopsie. So yeah, where was it? If enough people are born who meet Smuts' requirement for life worth living, that is high in various objective goods and low in bad ones, then we have the world to think that the people are born in a good world, simplicator, so that the world's just good. You are common sense. Yes, exactly. So that world, call this Smuts' ideal world, so to speak, would contain greater amounts of good than an alternative world where these people were not born. Even though some people in Smuts' ideal world may be harmed by being brought into existence, the presence of enough lives worth living make childbearing justifiable on a global scale. A good simplicator, if only as a statistic, since there is a high enough chance that a child would be born into a life worth living, which would make their life not a harm to them. The question that remains then, what are the requirements to be met before a child may reasonably be expected to have a life worth living and therefore be permissibly born? Although the author criticizes the legitimacy of Benatar's argument, my thesis is in support of antinatalism. The author's answer here is that the requirements to be met are high enough that we do not meet them. Every biological entity strives to live in a less painful way, but pain will still exist somewhere or sometime. Yeah, again, this is the question. They're saying that the bar is too high. This is, that we will never get, there'll always be more pain than good. I mean, that's what they're saying. They are high enough that we do not meet them. So that's what it is. So that's the argument from the author here. This is because I am convinced that there is an asymmetry between our duty to avoid bringing into existence suffering people and the absence of a converse duty to bring happy people into existence. Although I accept that the latter is logically possible, accepting this asymmetry means that much must be overcome for a life to be worth starting. That is, a guarantee by prospective parents that a life would be happy or worth living must be had to outweigh the stronger prima facie duty against bringing into existence suffering people. Because of this, I conclude that all else equal, the chances of meeting the requirements of a guaranteed happy prospective life are too low to justify childbirth. I call this the prudential argument. Although lives may be worth living, such lives may be worth avoiding. Alright, so they're just saying, look, harm is worse. Like, harm is a worse problem in some sense than, you know, trying to make people happy. And since it's a worse problem, we have to, like, you know, stop that before worrying about, like, making people happy. And since we have to stop harm, stop pain, this is more important. Now, I don't know if I buy this argument. They're just saying, look, we have a duty. It's really important that there's no pain. Why? Why does this author say this? I'm not 100% sure, but that's what they're saying. They say, look, we have a duty that we have to cut down on pain in the world. Okay. Exactly. Thank you for not reading. Cosmic says, individually, most of us do not experience more pain than the pain of free living. More than pain free living. We have a duty to reduce the pain for those who do not suffer the most. Yeah. Has this dude ever seen Jackass? No. Guaranteed happy perspective life. I know, it is a little, like, laughable. But that's what they think it is. Pain has some learning value. Yeah, I think that's right, hydrocannabinoid. But they're saying, I think what they mean by pain is that, like, your life doesn't suck. It's not that you're not learning, it's that your life doesn't suck. It stimulates growth, yeah. So you can learn from that. It's like, I hated school, but you have to go through it, you learn stuff, and I was unhappy when I was, like, in school. But, like, you have to get through that because you are expected to know things in modern society. So, but yeah, it's like, but the idea is that once you get through the pain, then you're going to have a better life. Yeah, sometimes. I did always love the old Jackass shows. Then, like, the Wild Boys where they're out in nature doing stupid shit. That was great. Good old shows. Fun stuff. So I'm not entirely sure where they're getting this duty theory where you have a duty to reduce pain. Yeah. Pain is more memorable. Well, we were just talking about that. I don't know if you were here, but, like, the way you are in, how you feel now actually has a lot of effect on how you view the pain in the past. Like, if you're in a lot of pain now, you view the pain in the past as much worse than if you are feeling good now, and how you feel about pain that way. Is hating something actually a pain? I mean, these are very general ways. Like, if you're an unhappy person, I'm thinking that they would just treat the unhappiness of your life as something bad, like, having an unhappy life, because it's not the good life that, Smuts needs. Viper says there's a plane called the Gimpy, also known as the suicide plane. I doubt there's any personal growth by getting stung by it. Yeah. What's it called? There is a sea urchin that I think is, like, extremely painful or maybe something. But one of the things that happens is you get an impending sense of doom. Like, you just think the world's ending or your life's ending if you get stung by it. And so it's like this weird psychological thing. It makes you, like, a doom prone if you get, like, stung by a sea urchin. It's like you just think everyone's gonna die. And so it's like, what does that do? Like, because it has some, like, psychological effect. It's kind of interesting. Reed says, even then we can lessen the pain. There's a threshold humans have between growth and too much pain. I forgot what they call it in psychology. Yeah, sure. Birthing a child is a pain, yes. As the French life is bread, yeah. Your spirit animal is a sea cucumber. Yeah, and some people eat cucumbers. It's, like, very tasty. So, who knows? Now we got calling mom insults. Here we go. Antinatalistic compassionate prudence. An argument from compassionate prudence for antinatalism might arise when one contemplates matters of moral responsibility and suffering. I feel a sense of doom of the President of the United States election. Yeah, it's not a fun election in the U.S. Do I know Michael Stevens from NYU? Okay, I don't know Michael Stevens. I know of him. I do not know him. Yeah. I mean, like, I've seen his name on the wall or something. You what? Yeah, Strevens, no. Yeah, I don't know no Michael. And I think, in what way did you come across the paper? Alright, yeah, so, when one contemplates matters of more responsibility and suffering, I choose to call my argument a prudential one because it appeals to making the best future regarding decisions with present epistemic resources. For clarity, the prudence that I employ is not one that benefits or promotes the well-being of the chooser. It favors good simplicator as behavior or a psychological state that is careful and risk avoidant. Let us begin with non-contentious preliminary suppositions. You gave a special rating, Nogjiz, exactly. Yeah, what's up, Adam? Nodder. So, yep. Imagine justified cases of euthanasia or cases of abject suffering where one might rationally accept a normative preference for non-existence over continued existence. Oh yeah, you guys. There was just a story out of England where some family, and there's a story out of the U.S. So in the U.S., some old white landowners in the South were keeping some black people chained up and using them as slaves, and in the U.K., some old rich people were using some, I don't know if they're old, they were using Indians as slaves. They took away their passports and were like paying them nothing in their house. So yeah. Hey Lumpy, what's up? Oh yeah, the doom feeling is my favorite weird neurological phenomenon. Yeah, it's fun. It can be triggered by this tiny, colorless jellyfish in Australia. Do you have a feeling of impending doom? Is a common question in psychology. We think ourselves rational, we panic that the world is ending, yet it's a chemical response. Yeah. It was, oh god, there were children? Yeesh. Yeah. Like, we're such great things, us humans. We're jerks to each other constantly. How you doing, Lumpy? Hope you're having a less stressful time and you're getting your shit done, because I saw your post and you're like busy. Okay. But like, yeah, so we're terrible things. Sea cucumbers exert parts of the gut to scare and defend away potential predators. Yeah, go look up the videos online of that. They're pretty cool videos when you see the sea cucumber like putting their guts out. It's fun. Okay, outside of now unintuitive cases of the absolute intrinsic positive value of life, it is easy to generate a case for non-existence. Terminal irredeemable illness paints a grim picture for continued existence. Over the past decades, our compassion for those in such cases have led to developments in the permissibility of euthanasia. We might posit that it becomes morally obligatory that we terminate at least some of the lives some of the lives. Consequentialists who subscribe to a moral obligation to maximize pleasure and minimize pain, for example, would comfortably accept a consequent obligation to terminate the life of a CNE case. Kantians too might too, I suppose, if keeping the person with CNE alive is motivated only to the ends of her family members who want her alive for their own reasons. Generally, in bioethics, an additional requirement for autonomous desire would be necessary. But if an autonomous desire obtains and the patient's cause for non-existence is medically demonstrable, it is not far from imagination that a moral obligation arises for a physician to euthanize. If this is true, then a moral obligation to terminate a life may be legitimate. So the obligation to terminate from the cause for non-existence. So there's OTC&E. There exist at least some cases where it is morally obligatory to end a life because ending that life is better than not ending that life. Clumpy is getting stuff done. Just today had a meeting to invest the renovation funds from the condo. We have to, otherwise we might get short. Then I did lab work, presented the weekly report on Zoom to the client in Boston, supported my team by making sure they are doing okay, but not less stressed. Yeah. So. But hey, sounds like you got a lot done, so you can be proud of getting all that stuff done. Try to less stress, but, proud. Proud, though stressed, potato. It should be stressed at this juncture that this obligation is not a legal obligation, but a strictly normative or moral obligation. Legally, I cannot imagine this would be defensible, although perhaps some development against conscientious objection might nudge downstream legislative development here. Morally, however, a commitment to maximizing good and or a commitment to respecting and acting in accordance with autonomy might give rise to such an obligation. It might be unsavory, but nonetheless a moral obligation that arises from commonplace obligations. Yeah, so I mean, you can imagine someone that has a terribly debilitating disease, and as a doctor, you could help them out, giving them some pills that will kill them, and you could do that. So yeah. Are there any stipulating assuming utilitarianism is correct moral theory here? No, I think they're kind of being a little bit utilitarianism, but like they're also saying that the Kantians too might, depending on who gets to make decisions about autonomy. So if the person doesn't want to live anymore, and the family members, like, that's not up to them, then why would you not respect the person's autonomy as an end in theirself? Especially given that maybe their rationality will go very soon. So yeah, so they're trying to cover their bases here. They didn't talk about virtue ethics, but I mean, you could make a virtue ethics case for this quite easy, I suspect. So that wouldn't be hard. Inspector says, I have a hemoglobin disorder. I'm unconscriptable, I hope. Yeah, so, I mean, maybe you've got, like, a bone spurs on your foot like Trump and prevent you from going to war. Like, those very honorable bone spurs he had on his foot, which kept him out of the military because, of course, he was dying to go to the military. I'm good, Lumpy. You know, I'm alright. About the same. It's just been a very busy month. Yeah. So I'm really waiting to get to next week, basically. And then things hopefully, I have no more deadlines, nothing will slow down, but like all the way through Saturday, which is just a few days off now, I'm going to be busy. So like once Sunday hits, I'll basically be free. But yeah, that's how it goes. But yeah, but stream has been going pretty well today. Chatted for a bit. Now we're reading paper. It's not that long and actually not half bad written. It looks like they have a new argument against antinatalism. I don't know if it's good, but at least it's different. So it's like, you know, it's okay. Viper says, you're going to get dementia soon, Grandma. You don't want that. You lived a good life. You should end it on your terms. Who are you leaving the house to? Dude, like, yeah. Well, that's always what the people... Oh, like, you know, the panic people are saying, you know, this is going to get abused and all that sort of. Lobtobe, thank you for the follow. But, like, that's always what people are, like, the scary things. So, I go to this coffee shop, and this is like, yeah, if any of you track me down, please don't repeat this story. But I go to this coffee shop, and the coffee shop, I'm friends with some of the people there because, you know, I'm being hipster. I sit and write in my little notebook. I talk to the people, and they've got this family member who, you know, comes by, works nearby. And apparently that family member goes and, like, hangs out with, like, people who are dying. And, like, they're legitimately good to, like, these people who are dying. But then it also comes out that they get the people who are dying to, you know, write them into their will, get them to leave them, like, some nice stuff. So they will go sit with you, like, when you're sick and, like, old and whatever, but they're really angling to get some of your shit when you die. And, like, they've done this multiple times, and they sort of wheedle their way into, like, old people's lives, and, like, they do this. So it's like, yeah. And, like, so, like, I was hearing the story, I'm like, yeah, that's scummy as fuck. And, you know, it's not like they're not hanging out with the dying person, but, like, it's just so dirty. Yeah. Yeah, elder abuse scammers. Yeah, so. K-Park says, yeah, I think the author is now using content ethic now, utilitarianism as perspective more than moral foundations. Yeah, they're not. Like I said, I don't think their argument is not going to be. They don't want to be strictly utilitarian or consequentialist, as opposed to deontologist. And as I said, you can also do this in other schemes too. It's yeah. They should do seminars on this plan. Well, this is new research, Unreal, so I mean, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so morally, however, commitment to maximizing good and or commitment to respecting and acting in accordance with autonomy might give rise to such an obligation. Yeah, so they're right here, they're trying to, like, you know, split the difference between the consequentialism and deontology. You were talking about the elder scam. Okay, yeah. Oh, well, yeah. It may be unsavory, but nonetheless a moral obligation that arises from commonplace obligations. Yeah. Okay, so if this is true, that there is a obligation for medical professionals to help out with euthanasia, we may turn our attention to the prevention of birth instead of the termination of life. Okay, so now they're just, you know, cutting out the middleman of living your entire life. So why, if there are good reasons for the doctors to help out you at the end of your life, why not just not bother living in the first place? Indeed, some cases of birth are not choice-worthy. Birth into abject suffering from geopolitical, psychosocial, congenital, or other environmental reasons come to mind. It seems hardly defensible to my mind that we may prefer birth over non-birth in an impoverished, abusive family. Yeah, see, this is the other problem, though. It's like, who gets to make this decision about who gets to have kids? Do only rich people get to have kids now? So, yeah. Adam says, I recall Stan Lee from Marvel had this live-in assistant who took over his business and dealings and signed for Lee. I think Lee's family had to sue the guy. Yeah, I mean, this happens. This happens quite a bit. There's been many scams where people get their autonomy taken away, and other people take over their stuff. There was some, what was it like? What was her name? Shoot, it was in Doom. It was in like that movie about that girl, the woman who killed people. I forget, but she was like a doctor who would, get the state to take over someone's stuff, and then they would just, take all their not Britney Spears. That happened to Britney Spears, but like, yeah, it was, you get someone committed. But I was talking about the actor, the woman who was in the Doom movie. That's all. But yeah. All I can remember at the moment, streamer brain. Lumpy says, lol, I still heard that PhD anthropologists blurt out on stream, well, you'd have to be insane to have children nowadays, right after one of her viewers was celebrating being pregnant. Yeah, I mean, it's sad. I mean, people really like kids, and so, like, they're very happy about that, but it's like, also, there's problems in the world, and like, yes, Rosamund Pike, thank you. So she did a movie where she was like some scummy lawyer, scummy doctor, and like they were basically, committing people and then taking control of all their assets. So this is a pretty big business, about this. You care a lot. You can see why that actress might come to my mind, Vipers. Yeah. All right. Fetal C&E. There exists at least some cases where it is more choice-worthy not to exist by way of birth than to exist by way of birth. Yeah, so if you're going to be born into a life of suffering, let's just say it's a medical one, then you can do it. And, of course, there are certain populations, like, say, the Jewish populations, they check for genetic, because, there's been genetic stuff that causes diseases in the Jewish populations, and so they check for certain markers to see if you're going to get something. I think it's called Tay-Sachs. So if you get Tay-Sachs disease, they will tell you that you have a chance of getting Tay-Sachs. Maybe you shouldn't have kids with this person. So yeah, you believe that's the name of the movie? I Care a Lot. Okay. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. My mom answers the phone immediately, says, hello, this is her name. I tell her I'll never do that, responding like they're a cop, and she calls me paranoid. It's fine. Like, what are you gonna do? My grandma would always answer the phone. The answer is yes. She'd say hello. The answer is yes. Like, yeah. But I mean, you have to be at least a little bit. Okay, it was I Care a Lot. Who knew? There we go. Good call. So yeah, I mean, I saw something like saying, what's it called? Like, don't put your street number on your house because people will track you down when you're away. It's like, this is not hard to find out. Like, who you're calling, where your street is. But it's like, yeah, you should be a bit more paranoid nowadays. And like my mom, she's older, and she's starting getting scam calls. People, tried to scam her by saying, hey, your kid was in an accident, we need some money. Like, your kid was driving, there was an accident, we need some money to get them to the hospital. Would you send us some money? And she just started laughing and hung up the phone. I mean, her grandson is 2 years old, so he's not driving anywhere. But like, it's, yeah, it is a bit of information. But again, you have to, being in the world is, dangerous. You can't be like completely paranoid all the time. So I was like, yeah, I say, like, when I pick up the phone, I'm like, hi, this is Noah. I don't do that. I just say hi. But well, actually, I do that all the time at work. But I'm like, hi, Noah. But it's like has to be a limit to like the comfortability of how much you're going to interact with the world as opposed to just like not interacting. So it's like, yeah, what's your paranoia level? Like, I download PDFs off the internet a lot. I was talking to a buddy at work, and he was like, oh, you don't, like, use a, like, virtual machine to download the PDF? I'm like, nah, dude, it's a PDF. Like, I'm not that worried about it. Like, I'm not running I have, like, no macros turned on. Like, I don't let it run, like, code. But, like, it's like, yeah, he's like, oh, man, how do you, like, do that? I'm like, nah. You receive a call, I ask, who are you? What's your business, and who do you work for? Yeah, but you can see how, confrontational that is. I mean, I pick up the phone, I say hi. That's it. It's like, and you're not even supposed to do that. Like, if you want to be like real, wait for them to start talking. It'd be like, introduce yourself. Like, that's it. Yeah. Hackers target popular platforms, which Phil Papers is not. Well, I wasn't talking about Phil Papers, is where I downloaded from. Like, I downloaded from, like, sometimes less savory sites. But yes, it can be off-putting, yeah. Again, there's a limit between, what's the thing? It's between security and ease of use. And this is always the trade-off in technology nowadays. Phones being a technology. Security, not saying your name, and ease of use, like introducing yourself and getting into a conversation. So, that's how it always goes. Okay. Yeah. Who wants to know? Who are you? What do you want to know? You download porn on PDF? How old are you? Yeah. Like, I'm trying to think if I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever downloaded porn on PDF. That would be impressive, though. Although, I mean, like, there was a time before PNGs. There was a JPEG only. Like, yeah, how much JPEG do you want in your images? Okay, so this, like in the other cases of CNA, non-existence reasons, debt collectors, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have any debt collectors, so that's good. Yeah, only ASCII porn, exactly. Yeah, good old Usenet porn, like where you're in text-based stuff. Speaking of. So years ago, I made like you can get emulators for Raspberry Pi, and I downloaded a pack of like old video games from like all these old arcade games from God knows when, like many years ago. And you get like I got this really big pack and all these games from Japan. So there were games from Japan that were from like the 80s. So we're talking like really 8-bit, 16-bit era. But like some of them were from bar games, and they'd have like women like dancing in like no clothes or very little clothes, but like you're talking like stuff that wouldn't even be considered porn now because of how low the bits were on it, how like the resolution was just so terrible. So it's like, yeah, porn from like the magazine porn was way better than this. We're talking like nowadays, like this would be okay to put on TV and stuff because of how pixelated it is. Yeah. Especially as you write them nasty and tell them they owe me $1,000 for violations statutorily. Yeah. I mean, does that work? Has anyone ever sent you $1,000? I mean, does it? I mean, I could use $1,000. All right. Yeah. So this is a fetal CNA, like this, like in the other case, gives rise to an obligation not to birth the child. Yeah. For the doctor-assisted case for non-existence. Similar conclusions have been arrived at by such philosophers such as Julian Savulescu, who argues for procreative beneficence. Savulescu's upshot is simply that we ought to choose of the possible children we could have to birth those children who are expected to have the best life. A logical extension of this thesis is that all things considered, there are at least some possible children whose lives would not be better than their counterparts from the same set of genes. If this is true, if Savulescu's principle indeed generates a moral duty, then we have a converse obligation not to bring some children into existence. If this is true, then a case for non-existence case arises from the potential for the potential children. Obligation not to birth from FCNE, that's an offshoot of the doctor-assisted one. There exist at least some cases where it is morally obligatory not to give birth. Why else would you write latex and have a laser printer? Well, there you go. Who would ever write in latex and have a printer? Yeah. Having established this, we are well served to consider cases of FCNE. So this is the final step, I guess. So this is like the fetal, like since you're supposed to choose the child, if you're going to even have a child, that has the best life, which is obviously cutting out all the other children that you might have had from an opportunity cost standpoint. You are choosing some life over others, and then all those lives, like these are possible lives, possible world lives, so they don't actually exist, but you're choosing that one life over the others, meaning that you don't like those lives you're not giving birth to. Yeah. Good night, Lumpy. You have a great night. Thanks for stopping by. And good luck getting everything done this week and chilling out. Okay. So I'm not in love with this, well, you choose the most likely to have the best life kid. Like, you want the healthiest kid, so you're not obviously choosing the sick kid. That's weird, but like, yeah. I get the point. People are not going to choose. Oh, and there was a study of this. I think Aris mentioned it on stream once, where once people were able to get genetic testing in some place in Europe, everyone picked the baby that had the fewest problems. Like, you just always chose the healthier, what appeared to be the genetically healthier kid. So, like, people do this. So that is cutting out all the other possible children that you had, and so you are choosing against their lives. When you did not give birth to them. Okay, many cases, that still seems weird, because you're not really selecting against them, you're selecting for a kid. You're not really selecting against the opportunity cost against those other kids, though. So there's something weird there in the choice, yeah. You can adopt instead of having children too. I guess that's a good point. It's just, I guess the author is not considering those sorts of things at the moment. Yeah. Okay, so many cases of FCNE may be identified prenatally or even preconception. Yeah, so you can do genetic testing. Myriad medical advances have given rise to prenatal scanning for congenital defects and even germline embryonic selection for in vitro fertilization. Preconception carriers of such devastating conflictions such as Huntington's disease may also find themselves at the cusp of creating an FCNE case. Psychosocially, we can also imagine a preconception case of FCNE that arises from the prospective parents who lack the access to the financial, social, and psychological conditions for childbirth. It is thus well and good that these parents can be discouraged from childbearing without moral abhorrence. I take this as uncontentious and with optimism that parents who are aware of such disadvantages are rightly resistant to childbearing. You haven't tried, you just get rejected? I don't know. I mean, you're adopted? Well, there you go. You don't know. Like, it's possible. Yeah, it gets hard if you're a year old. That's true. There's a lot. It gets complicated, I know. Like, I've heard people, not my friends, but like family friends have adopted, and it can be a very involved process. Yeah. But I mean, it's a great thing if you want to do it. A more unintuitive and uncomfortable form of FCNE arises, however, when a biologically healthy child is born to live a life that is not or cannot be well lived. Yes, because it's hard to know also. How do you know something have a bad life? You're a single dude? So? Like, I don't know. Maybe it would be. Hydra Camoy says, Medicare is offering free neurogenetic DNA tests to see if you have genes that predispose you to dementia, at least according to Robocaller. That is interesting. Yeah. Most babies get adopted as newborns or whatever before they turn 1. Because, people want to raise the kid as their own. And there's a lot of kids that have had problems in the world, and that makes it very difficult to deal with the kids because they've got psych or health problems from wherever they started out. So it does happen. Okay, consider for example a person who was born and lives through an unremarkable childhood to develop major depressive disorder from the stressors of existence, or perhaps to find yourself impoverished from economic hardships that arise from war. The problem is, how do you know there's going to be a war years later? It's and how do you know someone's getting depressed later? I mean, you could look for markers in family history, but it's hard at the moment to give a more than a probabilistic argument for this. Although such cases are not technically fetal, the prospect of such a fate might convince us otherwise. Herein lies an unintuitive but I think true extension of the FCNE. Knowing that a child might be born to develop into a case for non-existence case might be to give rise to a bona fide FCNE case. So once you know that they probably won't want to be alive later, then maybe you want to say, don't even have a kid, now. There's also epigenetic changes. Yeah, so that's a good point. It's getting even more complicated nowadays. Let me just check something real fast. I want to go look at the first thing. Choice-worthy non-existence. Okay, it's not case for non-existence. Choice-worthy non-existence. So you're making that choice. Okay, so it's choice of non-existence. Yeah. Said the wrong thing, I apologize. Okay, the abject suffering that accompanies existence almost as a matter of necessity, practically, not logically, is something that we know will happen to a child as they live out their lives. See, this is a very hard no. How do we know exactly that they will have an abject, terrible existence? It's possible. And I did not like being a kid. So if you asked me when I was a teenager, I would probably be like, fuck no, I don't want to be alive. But at the moment, I'm not like that at the moment. So it's like, things go back and forth. I'm not sure this is like something we actually have knowledge of. Yeah. Vipers is getting into the linguistics now. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do agencies let single dudes adopt children? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Because there's always going to be more kids than there are adoptive parents. So I don't know, but I would suspect the answer is yes. There just might have to be, you know, background checks involved, which are going to be done anyway, even for like, you know, anyone else. Okay. The severity of such suffering is also unknown to us in the initial position of conception. Will the child develop a depressive order from their suffering? Will they become victims of natural, man-made, or even self-imposed destruction? The upshot here is that at least some cases of fetal choice-worthy non-existence cannot be identified until an a posteriori judgment is made. Such cases arise when people, much like Sophocles, claim that they wish they had never been born. Truly, there is little that divides the line between choice-worthy non-existence and fetal choice-worthy non-existence. A choice-worthy non-existence case is a consequence of birth, which only by way of hindsight may be considered an FCNE case. Yeah, this is the problem. We were just talking earlier of hindsight being not the best way of judging things because we don't know what it looks like because it's affected by how you feel at the time. So hindsight is not always we say it's 2020, but it's not true. All right. If what I've outlined above is true, then the onus falls on prospective parents to project into the future in imagining the chances of their prospective child falling into the mold of the FCNE cases. See, again, this is so hard. To project into the future in imagining the chances of their child. Everyone has, rose-colored glasses. They want their child to have a great life. Like, oh no, my kid will be okay. This is very hard to do. Okay, this is impossible, yeah. Well, yeah, so, alright, they at least understand this. This is impossible, so you can't do that. We may do our best to ensure that such a future does not obtain, but how likely are we to succeed? The great tale of Siddhartha lends insight into the most sheltered lives becoming rife with suffering, even if that suffering stems from the mere acknowledgement of the suffering of those around us. Suffering is necessary to a life worth living, one might retort, but how sure are we that a person will derive meaning from suffering and not remain in lamentation of their suffering? So, single dudes with zero income, yeah, you probably have to show that you have means to support the kid. So that's, I bet, something that they would not look well upon. So now this author is just being like, woe is the world. So that's entirely fair, but like, again, this, I don't know if this is really an argument. This is an argument from just like, everything sucks. I don't know if that's always the case. Luke says we could just survey everyone in a war-torn area and ask if they'd wish they'd never been born, given past trauma or potential future trauma. If everyone or almost everyone says no or yes, that would be insightful. Yeah, you could definitely do that. Insert hippie lit reference to gain credit. Yeah, sure, there you go. That'll work. Just be like, yeah, I read Foucault, of course. I don't know, like, even if, like, Luke, I'm thinking about what you said. It'd be still anecdotal for like the people who there, and I know this is a historical thing too. People have treated war very differently over time, and you know, they understand their lives very differently, and so it's hard to say. It's going to be culturally relative a lot of times, and so this author is making this grand claim that everything sucks, And like, there's no real reason to like believe that people are just gonna all of a sudden be like happy. And that's fair, but again, there's a lot of relativity in how we view our lives over time. So yeah. NRG says people with suffering exist or will exist. The focus should be on alleviating the suffering, not the people. Yeah, but again, the author here is like, they agree, but maybe the suffering's too great. Like, they're willing to say, look, the suffering, we're never going to catch up. Yeah. Well, I don't suck. Well, okay. Thank you. Octua on it. Just fix everything. Yeah. So yeah, it's like they're saying, even Siddhartha, who had a privileged, great life. Yeah, but then again, was this like historically accurate? This is a story of the Buddhist Buddhism. Like, is this actually a story of reality? And only that, and even, do you have to be as brilliant as the Buddha to hate your life when like you have everything? Maybe for everyone who is not a Buddha, it's just great to be rich and have everything done for you. Only the Buddha would get himself into that position and be unhappy with it. Hey Bowser, how you doing? So, indeed, the conditions that we speculate are necessary, or at least contribute to a life well lived, purpose, transcendence from our animal natures, attitude, and sense of importance, the experience of meaning, are contingent on factors outside of our prospective parents' control. Yeah, I mean, this is fair. Like, we don't know what the hell's going to happen in the future. I mean, we try to hoard money and, like, make society better so that our kids might be doing well, but we don't know. Hey, Rethius, how are you? It's going okay. Going okay. Busy month for me, but we're getting there. Their obtainment relies on matters of chance, encounters with people, places, or things, educational or professional opportunities, psychosocial development across the lifespan, and the like. We seem remiss to justify childbirth into necessary suffering on the off chance that a life worth living obtains. Even if the latter is possible, contra Benatar's claims, they are subject to contingencies that, in many cases, do not avail themselves to preemptive intervention by prospective parents. I know what's going to happen in the future. I'm going to be wrong. There you go. Yeah, I agree. I'm going to be wrong in the future, too. What is going to happen, Viper? What stock should I buy? Oh, damn, yeah, same. Exactly. Very easy to predict certain future things. Vitwax and relax. Vitwax and relax. Sounds like a good plan. If you vitwax, you must relax. Okay. So this is their prudential argument. They finally put all their stuff together. The author has stated in length reasons for their prudential argument. It can be outlined as thus. 1. There exists at least some cases where it is more choice-worthy not to exist than to exist. 2. If one is true, there exists at least some cases where it is more choice-worthy not to exist by way of birth than it is to exist by way of birth. 3. There exists some cases where it is morally obligatory that to end a life because ending that life is better than not ending that life. 4. There exist at least some cases where it is morally obligatory not to birth a new life than birthing a new life. 5. Some cases in which it is morally obligatory not to birth a new life may be identified preconception or pre-birth. 6. Some cases in which it is morally obligatory not to birth a new life cannot be identified until after birth occurs a posteriori, sometimes until much later in life. 7. In cases laid out in premises 5 and 6, it is more morally obligatory not to birth those lives than to birth those lives. 8. Since there is no way to ascertain if premise 6 will obtain in the future at the point of conception, prospective parents must project into the future to imagine the chances of events or reasons occurring that would lead a child to experience the conditions required to qualify as a case in 6. 9. If a child is likely to experience the conditions to qualify as a case in 6, then it would be prudent not to birth the child. 10. A child is likely to experience the conditions to qualify as a case in 6, and therefore 11, as a matter of prudence, one should not birth new life. Yeah, I know. Everyone. Analytic philosophy for you. You got to spell it out because people will fuck it up if you don't. That's just how it goes. Yeah. So, it's like, but they spelled it out. And we went over, like, not, like, especially here, where they're saying, you don't know you don't know what's going to happen, but chances are they're terrible. I don't know if everyone buys that, like, how it goes. But yeah, we're getting to the end. Like, this ends, alright, we've got another page or two, but still, this is just them spelling everything out. Alright, the above is not meant as a formal proof of logic, but rather as a helpful outline of my thought process behind my prudential argument. A great burden of proof would be placed on a pro-natalist who intends to argue against either A, the extent of a parent's duty to ensure their prospective child's life would be worth living despite the suffering that awaits them, or B, that the link between the arguments cases they have sketched is untenable. Yeah, again, the cultural relativity argument here worries me a lot. They're saying everything's terrible. I'm saying people view their world very differently over time. So it's like the idea that you're saying everything's terrible sort of assumes that they're going to live a life very similar to yours. Now, they probably will, but things do change. The way we see the world changes. So it's like you are making decisions for people whose culture you don't know. And I don't know if that's covered by this argument. Because, like, people in the future, you know, a few generations down, it's like, yeah, things sucked, 400 years ago, but now everyone's happy. It could happen. Unlikely, but it could happen. Okay. Much of the legitimacy of my argument rests on premises 6 and 8. These premises are what motivates me to call my argument a prudential argument. It sets itself aside from Harry's risk argument, which appeals to the max-min principle of avoiding the worst possible outcome. Instead, I point to likelihoods. Here, undertaking a decision despite knowing that there is a great likelihood of a negative outcome may be said to be an imprudent decision. Premise 10 in turn solidifies my claim that the greatest likelihood exists. Although it is not my present intention to do so, there are a few ways to flesh out the moral valence of imprudent decisions. K. Parr says, in the possible world where utopia is achieved, would the prudential argument not work? Yeah, no. Because then there would be no reason to think that the kids would have a bad life. The kids would have an excellent life because they live in a utopia. And so there would not be, it would be on average, because like they're saying, this is a likelihood, a probabilistic thing. On average, they're going to have a great life. And they stated as a premise that they don't think that's the case. That on average, it's more likely that things are going to suck. So yeah. Luke says, so far I'm not sure if they sufficiently established that suffering is so bad or likely, even in war-torn areas, to the degree of warrant of denying someone's existence. Yeah, but they're taking it that the way people are is that we minimize past pain, and that minimization is not accurate. So mostly things suck, and they're just stating this. They didn't like really present a lot of argumentation for it. So you're right, Luke. Yeah, so not necessarily P, but possibly P. Yeah. So this is a likelihood argument. I mean, they're saying it right here. I mean, instead, I point to likelihoods. And they're saying, on average, things suck. So, yeah. Inspectors' adopted children can live under a tarp and fish and siesta and VTwax and relax. Yeah, so that's like, again, like, there's no real problem with the life, just like, living off the land, especially if you do have access to contemporary society, at least in some amount. So like then you're just chilling out, having a camping life. You don't need a lot of stuff. It's like you can get by on very little nowadays, but it's like and have a great life. There's no reason why that couldn't be the case, but it's like, it's not what this author is saying. They are saying on average things suck. So there's a good chance for it. Yeah. Okay. All right, author says, suppose I made an imprudent decision and a negative outcome accrues, a utilitarian could very easily chastise me for performing a morally bad action. A virtue ethicist, on the other hand, might also do so, claiming that a virtuous agent is one who acts based on the reasons that they have to think that their action would reap positive outcome. This is a duck out. This is shitty virtue theory. They're saying that the virtue should have the positive outcome, but that's just dressed up utilitarianism. You can do that, but it's kind of not really a virtue theory. Yeah, Hawk to a life, exactly. K-Par is getting by with very little, not being able to have more, get what you need is different relative position. Yeah, but I'm saying you don't need to have tons to have like a good life. But I mean, again, is your life mostly pain then? I don't know. But like, it's like you don't need to have like crazy amount of stuff to get by. But like, yeah, it is a different argument, K-Pars. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm not sure that the current everything sucks would hold in the future, seeing as like, even if society changes a lot, maybe the way we view society changes, and then we're feeling pretty good about things, even if we don't have lots of stuff. Like, it may not matter. Yeah. But it is a different position, but that's what I was saying. So like, yeah. Okay. Unreal says, I wonder when the philosophically oriented HT memes would start. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. So, the author says, that is, I did not act virtually since I made an imprudent decision. Yeah, this is them trying to window dress that they can do virtue ethics. A little bit janky, but, like, it's okay. It's appreciated. It's good that they brought it up at some point. But whatever. At any rate, there is room to judge the deontic status of an action a posteriori in ethics, and indeed we do so frequently. Yeah, so they did try to slip in the virtue ethics stuff, which is fine. See, just because I think this is wrong, I need Aris here to check. But the fact that you made an imprudent decision, if you were making it out of good habits, I think that would be still virtuous. Like, that doesn't mean everything's going to work out perfectly all the time. So yeah. Alright, a critic may thus be quick to argue that premise 10 is an evaluative claim that I am not grounded in making. This may perhaps be true since I cite no literature on the topic. Indeed, no reasonable person would admit that they do not suffer. The burden of proof that I must address then is that a child is likely to become a fetal choice-worthy non-existence case after birth. Yeah, so they have to, like they're saying, okay, I didn't know you're here. Alright, they're saying if you fuck up a decision, then you didn't act virtuously since you made an imprudent decision. I feel like this is just utilitarianism in like virtue ethics clothing. I think they're just trying to redo utilitarianism and saying, well, since your decision came out poorly, then you made an imprudent decision. I'm saying, no, you could have made the decision through like some really good virtues, but it still worked out badly, and that's not unvirtuous. So yeah, I like it's this spot right here. How might you compare and contrast rule of virtue ethics from rule utilitarianism? That's a bigger topic. We can get back to that. I have not specifically thought about that in a while. But yeah. But yeah, exactly. If you want to get into like, I'm not an ethicist also. So I do not tend to think about those things. But like, that's the idea. It's that if you have a virtue ethics and then you have a rule-based utilitarianism, then like, are those rules in utilitarianism, how those rules compare to virtues versus deontological maxims or whatever. But yeah. Ethics case, right? Yeah. Aris says, but generally speaking, the virtuous person does the right thing for the right reasons and feels appropriately. Okay. Maybe that's fine. So yeah, you can still be virtuous and do something that ends up shitty. Ultimate success involves a lot of luck. Yeah, there you go. Because there is still like moral luck involved. The virtues put you in a good position. But like, this is why I think right here, this is not this is more utilitarian speak. You give hospitals fake names on behalf of your adopted children for their checkups. You know, maybe you just gotta live in a place where there's social health care, and then it wouldn't be a problem, Inspector. Yeah. It's like, you just can't live in America and do this. Maybe you could live in some other country, and then, you know, one with like a halfway decent social safety net, and then like, you know, you can have a nice, like, comfy life, even if you're not making any money. So, yeah. Unreal says, given that I look at these things through a lens of pragmatism, I think of virtues as developing habits of ethical care and action, so that it becomes relatively automatic. No, I'm with you on this. I'm also with you there. But like, that's why this set off alarm bells for me, because it's like, if you're making an imprudent decision because you got the wrong outcome, it's like, well, that's not how virtues work. Like, so what if you got the wrong outcome? Yeah. Like, based on reason thinking of their actions would reap a positive outcome. Like, well, yes, you thought you were reaping a positive outcome, but like, that's always probabilistic. And that you didn't act virtually since you made an imprudent decision. Well, no. You didn't know that you made the decision based on habits, and that's why this is funny. Yeah. Ara says, for what it's worth, I think this person also does weird stuff with Kantians too. Yeah, they're a little fast and easy with some of the ethical theories. I agree. Kant himself was explicitly against suicide. Yes, but I mean, we don't have to stick with what Kant says, do we? So Aris continues, and suffering doesn't really matter for morality, though it might for ethics. Kant-ish philosophers might be able to get Kant to say reasonable things, but Kant himself was shit on these issues. Yeah, well, I think that's what they're doing here. They're doing a reconstruction of giving ways you could justify euthanasia in a Kantian sense. So yeah. Vipers has a total random thought, but I'm fine with the word comfy, but adding a prefix to it to make it uncomfy makes it very uncomfortable. Yes, but I mean, I don't see how it's uncomfortable. It's just uncomfy. Not very. Like, the very seems a little excessive. Just uncomfy is uncomfy, isn't it? Well, he was a cunt. Yes. Hard T cunt. Cunt. As the Australians say, not a cunt. He's a cunt. Yeah. You just don't like it? Okay. Yeah. Aris says, a lot of ethicists want to be ecumenical and get all traditions to agree. That'd be great, but it's tough. Maybe good rhetoric, but probably inaccurate philosophy. Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is hand-wavy stuff. It just is. It's like, okay. To be fair, you can shoehorn the ethical traditions as much as you want. You can force them to get different, the outcome you want. It's just a matter of how much work you're willing to put in, what bullets you're willing to bite. It's like every other philosophy. You can bend it the way you want it to if you're putting enough, force behind it. Always. So, yeah. All cosmic says, there's room to judge the deontic status of an action a posteriori in ethics. Indeed, we do so frequently. Prove it. Yeah. You don't believe in deontic status of a prior ethical actions. Yeah. Again. They're a little fast and quick with the theories, but I get the point that you can make justifications for all the things they're claiming here. It's not that crazy to think that it could be done. They just may have not done it as well as we would like, but like I don't think they're wrong in their claims here. So it's like, yeah. Okay. A critic may thus be quick to argue that premise 10 is an evaluative claim that, they're not grounded. Okay. This may perhaps be true since I cite no literature. What was 10 again, just to refresh my memory? Where was that? Where'd it go? Okay, 10 was what? Okay, yeah. So they're saying this is the one where they're saying everything sucks, and that's why they have to work so hard. They're saying this is the premise that says everything sucks, and the kid is gonna have a shit life, and that's why they're trying to have to work very hard to justify it. Where am I? Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Indeed, there's no reasonable person will admit that they do not suffer. The burden of proof that a must as a child is likely to become an FCNE after birth. Okay. A person, in my view, becomes a posteriori FCNE case if the way their existence pans out includes a large amount of pervasive suffering. I think that most of us fit in this category. Yeah. So again, this person just thinks all of our lives suck. That we all fit in this category. And then they're going to reference Schopenhauer, who says everything sucks. Schopenhauer points this out. All willing arises from want, therefore from deficiency, and therefore from suffering. The satisfaction of a wish ends it, yet for one wish that is satisfied, there remain at least 10 which are denied. Alright, I think this is kind of a shit argument, because satisfaction may be worth way more than, like, the suffering of not having something. So I'm not like this doesn't, like, yes, it's Schopenhauer, and they're saying everything's suffering, oh my god, and you could be Buddhist and be like, the world is suffering, we have to, get out of this world of suffering, we have to, reach enlightenment, but how much benefit are we getting? This is just saying, well, we have a numerically higher number of sufferings versus non-sufferings, and therefore there must be more of them. I mean, I think that's wrong, because say one satisfaction may be worth 200 little sufferings versus one satisfaction of something. So yeah. And children are too expensive, hence the subunity fertility rate. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is nowadays. There's definitely an economic pressure on the fertility rate. And when we were saying this earlier in chat, someone said that basically the higher the wealth gap, the lower the fertility rate, because the majority of people don't have enough money to have kids. K-Bars, you must be mistaken about your own experience. Yeah, so I don't think this is a good argument here. But the author continues. Let's see what they say. Even if we perceived our lives to be worth living, we cannot deny the pervasiveness of suffering that has become a necessity in our lives. Again, it may be pervasive, but if it's like small, who cares? Like, small annoyingness may not be a big deal. We're not getting rid of all the small annoyingness. Now, the question is, how big are the annoyingness? Maybe they're huge. Maybe they're small. But, like, pervasiveness on its own does not equate to, like, overwhelming. All right. Now, whether this suffering amounts to the same amount of suffering as a child born with spina bifida is a separate question. Here it appears so to me. A child born with a congenital disease doomed to die an extremely premature death experiences a large amount of suffering. The kind of suffering that plagues us qua humans is an admittedly smaller amount of suffering, but compounded across a far larger time horizon. Suffering from basal human needs like hunger, thirst, and thermoregulation comes with suffering from such things as existential dread and stressful life events, which, as it happens, significantly increases the odds of developing major depressive order. Yeah, this person just sounds depressed. And that's fine, but like, I'm not sure this actually holds. Again, they're saying, oh, you have all these problems over the course of your life, but then again, you might have good things over the course of your life too, which offsets all of this. So, I'm not sure. Spina bifida, thank you. Environmental destruction, can't find the sentence on the page. Alright. Now what about the suffering that makes your life possible? Sweatshops and child labor overseas? Yeah. Well, again, they were saying, if you are choosing life based on the lives to live. So this would be your child's life, not other people's suffering. Now, the fact that there are a lot more people suffering overseas may, on the whole, make it bad for society, but that's not their argument. So, yeah. Unreal says, First Mate, Captain, we're in danger. Arguments are giving way. Captain, release the quas. Yes, I mean, use Latin big words if you need to sound impressive. But I mean, their claim is just that life sucks more than it's good. And that's all that this is. Like, okay. I mean, I don't know if that's accurate, but that's their claim. And I think they know this. This is why they keep saying the same things over and over. They're trying to convince themselves and maybe us and maybe themselves. Okay. Again, allow me to appeal to probabilities and prudency. I have established above that all human life is rife with suffering. No, you haven't, but you keep saying that, author. In other words, human life begets suffering as a matter of necessity. Yes, but how much? But again, this is their premise. They do it, but like they are not arguing for quantities. This is why I think they're kind of utilitarian. They're sort of adding up all the pains in their lives, and they think it's huge, but we don't know how to add up pains, really. It doesn't make sense. Okay. I've established... The hell you say, yeah. On the other hand, we cannot say the same reasons... For the same reasons to think that we have lives worth living. I have mentioned this earlier in the section on antinatalistic compassionate prudence. For those of us who are privileged with charmed enough lives to read, write, and contemplate bioethical literature, I imagine that our lives are worth living. That's so nice. They think their life is worth living, but no one else's. I mean, that's not true, but that's a shit take on this. But, like, it's just a funny sentence right there. Ergo, vis-a-vis, concordantly, yes. Start yelling the, therefores, thusly. Okay, but the state of having a life worth living is merely contingent, again, a post hoc retrospective evaluation that we nor our parents could have foreseen. If this is true, then we have reasons to think that all lives necessarily contain suffering as a matter of guarantee, but not all lives contain the composite benefits that comprise a life worth living. The point here is that our lives are contingently charmed. As it stands, any reason for us to think that we have a life worth living may be swiftly eradicated by a road traffic accident. Thankfully for us, this has not happened to us, but the same cannot be said about the initial state of projecting a child's future. If what I say here is sound, then it seems that we are forced to undertake a gambit between 1, the necessary prospect of a life rife with suffering, and 2, the non-necessary possibility of a life worth living. This is page 260, not 253. Oh, I don't know what's going on with Tindarius. Post hoc tua ergo prop hoc tua. Yes, Unreal Brown. Now you're starting to get it. Now, keeping in mind that our what do you need something from Darius? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Like, let me know. Okay, now keep in mind that our lives and indeed our parents' gambits have contingently paid off. What reason do we have to assume that the same of any prospective child? At base, we know that we guarantee suffering, but cannot guarantee a life worth living. This provides a prudential motivation against having children. Yeah. So even if everything was good in the past, things still suck now, and so we shouldn't have kids. And this is basically just saying why the birth rate is going down. That's all this is saying. This is just describing the current birth rate because things suck right now. Perhaps one is still unconvinced by my substantiation of premise 10. Yes, I am unconvinced. But like, yeah. This is of little consequence. Oh, so sad. This is because their argument ultimately is a prudential one. That is entirely plausible that it admits to the moral permissibility of childbearing if the odds of a child's life being worth living stacks highly enough that it outweighs the harms that will or are likely to accrue to the child throughout their life. If there are strong enough reasons to believe that a child does not grow into an FCNE case, a fetal choice-worthy non-existence case, then as according to my argument, we may be justified in childbearing. So this is literally the whole thing. This entire paper comes down to saying, yes, when things economically stuck, don't have kids, and when they're better, have kids. Okay. The guy wrote the Schopenhauer quote was on page 253, but I think he provided the page on 260. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we can, you know what we can do is we can look at the, did you see the edition in the, references? I mean, you have to get the right edition. Things suck, but the solution isn't less humans. Well, NRG, that the birth rate is going down when it's harder to raise kids makes it look like this is how people reason, though. So I don't know if like this is meant to say this is what we should be doing, but this is what we are doing, I think. Like this person is like justifying the birth rate going down when there's economic distress. So it's like sometimes it is the solution. People be like, we're going to wait a few years to have kids because we need to be in a better economic position. So yeah. Inspector says subunity fertility doesn't matter for America. Immigrants are clamoring to turn themselves into grist for our mill. Yeah, I mean, that's another way to do it. You don't make your own kids, you import kids from other places. It's like, okay. It's just another, oh, it was author provided link and user link. Okay, so that's just, again, on this author. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know. Yeah, so, I mean, there are different ways countries deal with this. I know Japan is trying to get their kids, get their population to have more kids. I believe Korea is also in South Korea is in a similar position. They're trying to have more kids. So it's like there are things governments can do because they are worrying about population collapse. And this is like beyond things I know. It's like this is one of those go bother Shane issues. If anyone doesn't know who I'm saying when I say go bother Shane, let's give Shane shout out Shane McInnes. He's a historian and sociologist, stream friend. So if you want to go give Shane a question that has to do with like real life and not just theory, then like you can also ask him theory, but like I deal with theory. But yeah. But yeah, okay, we're getting to the end here. The author's argument may be helped by an analogy that I suppose is uncontentious. Here's an analogy from drink driving. If one is going to a party, there exists at least some case in which one might drink. If one drinks, one should not drive. If one does not drink, one may drive. One only knows if they drink a posteriori. As a matter of prudence, one should not drive if going to a party. Yeah. Undiscerning readers may think the analogy is a disanalogy because we have control over whether we drink at a party, thereby denying premise 4. But do we? Agency is a difficult question to answer, and without getting into the metaphysics of free will, suffice to understand that one's decision to drink at a party is not completely his. An example comes to mind of a college-age student going to a fraternity party where tremendous peer pressure and sometimes even physical coercion to drink is not uncommon. So it's like, yeah, so it's just like, again, the world may suck bad in the future, and so that means you shouldn't have kids now. Again, they just keep saying how the world can suck. Like, you may get forced into drinking against your will. Like, yeah, but not everything is like that. Okay, conclusion. You find the analogy unconvincing? Yeah, me too. I mean, they're just very risk averse here. It's like maybe this person is just too worried. Yeah. In all fairness, the world almost certainly won't be as great a place in the next few decades. Oh yeah, I agree. It's kind of shitty right now. Does that mean we should have less kids? But well, like I was just saying, we are having less kids because things are shitty. So people are making this decision. So even though this guy is trying to be like normative, we shouldn't have kids, antinatalism, it's like, well, it's more descriptive to me. And so it's like the argument here is overblown. But let's get to the end. Because we only got this paragraph. All right. Author concludes, we cannot reasonably peer into the future to prospect for a life well lived before deciding to birth a child. Much less so if we consider that the factors that would give this child a life worth living are purely contingent on factors outside the control of their prospective parents. In this article, I have argued that from developments in euthanasia and choice-worthy non-existence cases, we may derive an informed intuition on lives worth living and terminating or starting and not starting. Our views on death ethics are informed by the content of those lives we speak of, and if these views are legitimate, we are well served in carrying those considerations into prospective lives that are yet to begin. Unfortunately for us, existence necessarily bears suffering, even for the best of us who think our lives worth living and thereby do not regret its having been started. Fortunately for prospective people, we may decide through prudence that they should not have to suffer as we do. The end. If you're going to be a party, be a designated driver. Therefore, if you go to a party, you should not drive. Yeah. So it's like, okay, yeah. If you go to a party, go with the designated driver. It's like there, solution. But then again, that's sort of the argument. So earlier by who? That was by, I think, Kay, where they're saying you're relying on sweatshops of kids in other parts of the world, and so that's the same thing. You have a designated driver who doesn't get that fun, and so the quality of like my life is great heightened by kids suffering on the other part of the world. Same thing if the sweatshops and the designated driver. Yeah. Tindera says, I mean, there are islands on which the inhabitants don't have the most common problems. Yeah, and that's part of what I was saying also, is that the way things suck now is very contingent on now. Cultures have changed over time. People's how they feel about things have changed over time, and the current economic problems are not going to last forever. The point is the argument implies the designated driver should not go. Oh, the designated driver should not go. Okay. Yeah. So I guess that makes sense too. So it's a little bit weird. Yeah, you're going to party to be a designated driver. If you go to party, you should not drive. Yeah. So they would have to make an exception for the designated driver to be helping other people out. But that's making your life suffering. Like someone having a shitty life. And so then, yeah, it wouldn't go. Again, that's a good point, because then you could say, well, look, I'm contributing to the greater good. As long as it's not abused by everyone else, then only my little bit of suffering for one night, but then I get to go to 5 other parties where 5 of my friends are driving, 5 different friends are driving. So it's I get to go to 5 other parties, or however many people fit in a car. I get to go to 4 other parties, if you're talking a sedan, and I only have to miss out on one. That seems like a pretty good deal. I miss out on one, and I'm drinking at one party, but I get to go get hammered at 4 more. It's well, the ratio then gets solved by society. And so it's yeah. Can we will everyone not to drive without contradiction? Yes, K-Pars, we can will that. But anyway, this is what we do here. We rate the paper. And so now you can see the emote review up. I apologize, you have to spell them correctly with correct capitalization. But if you thought this was a fun article and gave you things to think about, you put the brain dance down. If you thought it made big claims that shriveled up, then you give it Nog Grapes for the grapes shriveling up. Nog Navel, navel gazing only for academics. You get Nog Navel. Nog Oro for Orbo's deeper ancient ideas. Nog Scream for existential or artistic drama. Nog Turd, all style no substance, still poop underneath, is what you get for if they're making fancy arguments that you just don't think are good. And Nog Knife for slicing and dicing arguments. And then there's the global Twitch, vote yay, vote nay, and then my vote meh. Again, note the capitalization. Tindarius said a grapes, a turd, and a nay. All right, there we go. Thank you, Tindarius, for rating. Did not like this paper. Viper said, again, grapes, turd, and nay, and also navel gazing. Inspector says we need to design a society we can get hammered with less kinetic energy. Unreal said nay, grapes and knife. Yeah, I'm going to also go with Unreal. I thought they at least attempted to make some analytic arguments. So we're going to get a knife from me at least. So let's go and put that in. Aris gave it a meh and an existential. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Luke, you missed out on your vote meh. Thank you. If you want to put it in, you have to capitalize the V in vote meh. I'm sorry. I can fix it later if you don't. Let's see. I'm gonna give it a nog knife because they at least attempted to do this. Yeah, and you can add emotes later, so it just adds it up. I'm gonna give it. I actually thought they did an okay job of making up a new sort of prudential argument. I didn't think it was very good. Thank you for the file, Kay. So I'm gonna vote meh. I thought they did okay. At this. They did kind of fuck up some of their arguments. They did just sort of like be like, oh, the world sucks, the world sucks, the world sucks. We're gonna reference Schopenhauer. The world sucks. It's like, not quite. A bit too broad, K. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. And if you put a vote yay and a vote meh, it's like kind of an in-between. That's how I kind of rate it. They're a young philosopher. Yeah, I got that sense too. You can see it, I don't know if you can see, but it says the author is a recipient of the National University of Singapore Research Scholarship. So, you know, it's not the worst argument. So what do I give it? I give it grapes, a meh, and a knife. I might give it like a scream or something. Should I give it a brain dance or should I give it a scream? I'm trying to think. How many philosopher streamers are there? I mean, we can go click on that. These are all our philosophy friends. I mean, there's Aris, there's Evolve Yourself, there's Ivan, there's Brain Scream. Yeah. I mean, Vipers, you know most of them. There's a few more, I guess, but I'm trying to decide, like, is this fun or was it existential? Yeah, I'll give it a nog scream. So, I mean, this was okay. Alright, so, I know, we got a bunch of people here. Everyone in chat is welcome to do it. If you're watching on Kick, you can put the stuff in Kick and I'll copy it over, like there. So, yeah, I'll give you another minute to get this in. What's up? If to exist or not to exist isn't worth an existential stream, what is? Well, you know, this wasn't really, I guess this is like to have kids, not to have kids. It kind of is. I mean, it's up to you. It's up to you. But like, yeah, everyone's welcome to rate it. If you're first time here, it's fine. Well, that's analytic philosophy for you, Brian. I'm still angry and will always be angry at the philosophical zombies for ruining zombies. I basically refuse to think these things exist. It was a philosophical one. Nog scream only for you? Okay. Well, okay. So you have to capitalize the S. I'll fix it for you later if you don't do it, Adam.